Okay, we're back.
It
So,
restarted.
no, it doesn't restart. Oh, okay. Well, today we're going to do lesson 2, paraphrasing phrases. I have Chris here with me
Hello.
doing this, and first of all, we're going to talk about some review from our last lesson on paraphrasing single words. So, what was the definition of paraphrasing?
Look how dry my hands are.
Your hands are very dry. What was the definition of paraphrasing?
Paraphrasing means putting your information into your own words.
Awesome. And what are 3 characteristics of paraphrasing?
Correct words on makes sense.
Wonderful. So we used a lot of synonyms to do that for our last assignment. Today we're going to start learning about paraphrasing phrases or small groups of words. Remember, paraphrasing is something that good readers do when they read. We are working towards you being able to paraphrase paragraphs. We started by having you paraphrase words, and today you will start paraphrasing small groups of words. Your job today is to listen carefully, take notes, and participate in the discussion. Later, you'll be completing at least one learning sheet to practice some paraphrasing. First of all, we are going to define the word phrase. As I said, a phrase is a small group of words. However, the words in a phrase aren't just random words. They have been grouped together to mean something. For example, the words under the couch form a phrase. That means that something is located or placed beneath the couch. The words wooden house form a phrase that means what? What does a wooden house as a phrase mean?
Paraphrasing?
What does it mean? What kind of house is it?
Wood.
So it's made out of?
Logs.
Very good. So remember, good readers know how to paraphrase phrases. In other words, they would break a big sentence into parts, and like these phrases, and they put the phrases in their own words. If you chunk up something big into small parts and work on those parts, the job becomes really easy. If you chunk a sentence into parts like phrases, that makes paraphrasing much easier. So let's review the characteristics of a good paraphrase. When you paraphrase a phrase, you need to make sure that it is correct. So it needs to make sure that it has the same what?
Same paraphrasing.
The same meaning.
Meaning.
Yep. And when you use your own words, you need to do that as much as possible. Everyone will always be able to change every word in a paraphrase into their own words. Yes or no?
Yes.
I can change every word. Can I change the word the and a?
No.
You're right.
Not
So no.
the word.
So obviously you won't be able to change every word in a phrase all the time.
Where to put it?
Oh, we don't need to put anything down yet. So you should try your best to change as many words as you can. And finally, your paraphrase of a phrase must make sense. Your language can't be all mixed up and garbled. Another person has to be able to understand what you said.
I need lotion bandwidth.
We'll get some lotion as soon as we're done with the lesson. We're going to do the same thing to paraphrase a phrase as we did to paraphrase a word. You're going to put the phrase in a sentence, then we're going to think of synonyms that we can insert into the sentence and in place of the phrase. Finally, we'll check to make sure it makes sense. So we're going to take learning sheet 2A, and okay, now you can learn by watching. I'm going to paraphrase this first phrase. Pay close attention to what I do because I'm going to ask you to do the same thing in a couple minutes. First, I look at the first phrase and read it to myself. Lovely sketches. Next, I put that phrase into a sentence like, the artist was selling some lovely sketches. Now I think to myself, what words can I use to replace lovely sketches? In that sentence, how about pretty drawings? Can I use pretty drawings in the same sentence? The artist was selling some pretty drawings. Yes. Does it mean the same thing as the artist was selling some lovely sketches? Yes. Did I replace the original phrase with my own words? Yes. And finally, did I check to make sense? Yes, it does make sense. So we will write pretty drawings on that first line. Okay, let me do the same thing for the second phrase. First, I look at the phrase, First, I look at the phrase and read it to myself. Beside my mother. Next, I put it into a sentence. My sister likes to sit beside my mother. Now I think to myself, what words can I use to replace the words besides my mother? How about on my mother's lap? Can I use those words in the same sentence? My sister likes to sit on my mother's lap. I can use those words, but does this mean the same thing as my sister likes to sit next to my mother? No. Okay, so we have to start over. What words can we use to replace beside my mother? You think you got it? What is it?
Next to my mom.
Next to mom. Does that make sense? My sister was sitting next to mom. Yes, and it means the same thing. So write that on your sheet on number 2. We're going to skip the third paraphrasing because it sounds like you understand what we're doing. So why don't you tell me, along the avenue, what would you think we would put for that instead?
Down the street.
Down the street. I like that. That's a good one. Write that on number 3. Now let's work together on the learn by sharing. So the second section. Remember, we're going to work together to do these next 3 phrases. Now you're ready to work through them. So the first phrase is the giant automobile. How can we put that into a sentence?
Big truck.
The big truck. We could change that into the big truck for the phrase. Does the big truck and the giant automobile mean the same thing? Yeah? Okay. Number 2, a chilly wind. A chilly wind. How can we put that into a sentence?
Breezy cold wind.
A breezy cold wind blew in Minnesota. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Let's do number 3. A frightening event. So if it's a frightening event, what's another word for event?
Hosting something.
Yeah, so it would be called happening maybe?
Happening.
So if it's frightening, what else is it?
Scary.
Scary. So let's put it in a sentence both ways and see if it works. Halloween is a frightening event. Halloween is a scary happening. Does that mean the same thing? Yes? Wonderful. Now you're ready to paraphrase on your own. So remember to read the phrase, put it in a sentence, think of synonyms that you can use in the paraphrase, replace the paraphrase with the synonym in the same sentence, and check for the 3 criteria to make sure it's a good paraphrase. When you finish paraphrasing the 5 phrases listed here, I'll collect your paper and give you a grade for the day. You can earn up to 5 points, 1 point for each phrase. In order to earn credit for an item, your phrase must have the same meaning as the original phrase. It must include mostly your own words and make sense. So go ahead and work on the practice part. Today you learned how to paraphrase a phrase. What is a phrase? A group of words. What are the 3 characteristics? It must have the same meaning, be in your own
Meaning.
your own words,
words,
and make
sense.
wonderful. And how does it help you? It's because you can take a sentence and break it down into smaller parts. During our next lesson, you can practice paraphrasing phrases again. And once you show you can do that, we will start paraphrasing sentences. So I will let you get finished up on that.